Hello, welcome. So today is going to be an in-depth review of the week of July 22nd to the 26th of 2024. And I've got quite a few things to talk about this week because I have made so many changes, as I've mentioned in my most previous video. Um, I would honestly, I prefer to be uploading more consistently, but I also like the idea of kind of doing these cumulative wrap-up reviews because I have so much more material to reflect on and work with. So yeah, let's start off here. Some general ideas are first off, I mentioned previously, that I was making quite a few changes with regards to how I was entering, with how I was managing trades, and with that came a lot of uncertainty, a lot of kind of experimentation with how I was trying to go about doing all these things. It wasn't that I was completely throwing away my old system, which I was profitable with. It was more so that I was trying to find ways that maybe I could cheat a few points here or there and optimize these things a bit in order to, improve whatever it was that I was doing. And really, in hindsight, I think I was just, strategy switching, strategy hopping for no real good reason, just kind of trying to lazily find this, next shiny new indicator. And I feel like I paid my dues, I learned my lesson, because really, the primary takeaway from this week is that whatever kind of strategy that I'm trying to pull off with this way of trading is just not sustainable. It's not for me, and I'm just gonna stick with what I know works. Um, so yeah, let's start off here and just go in a few trades, and I can go more in depth into what I'm sort of talking about when I review my actual trades themselves. So the first move is not terrible. It's actually probably one of my only few decent trades of the week, but it's going to be this channel here, which I took the lines from here and here, posted them here, took them up, and from there I was able to grab this little move here once this red line held support. These things are kind of annoying when it holds like that, but I entered here. I knew there was going to be some resistance here, which really didn't end up. It just kind of cut through it, and I ended up not really being able to capitalize on this massive, rally here because I was already out of most of my position. And this is where the idea of if you just have one runner, we never went below the previous bar for half an hour. Why is there even a singular reason to exit? So that was one of the things where it's like, okay, regardless of what I'm changing, this is still something that even if I go back to my old system, I want to be able to do this better. I want to be able to catch more of this, and not be like, oh, okay, this bar is coming up. Oh, okay, it's not. This is the end of the move. Okay, I'm getting out here. I don't want to hit break even. Oh my gosh, And those are the sorts of things that, with this experimenting, as you'll see later on, because I think my win rate dropped around 50% in the past 20 trades. In the past 2 to 3 weeks, my win rate dropped significantly. Around 50%. But I will say that my R increased, and it wasn't a significant enough increase in my R to kind of, to make up for the abysmal win rate. But it was enough for me to say there's power in learning how to properly hold and manage trades, which has always been one of the hardest parts of trading. And I know not only for me, but for so many. How do you manage a trade if it's 70% of the way to your profit target? Are you going to move your stop to break even? Are you going to reduce your stop? Are you going to let it go back? Are you going to take early partial profits? How do you do this, right? And that was where I was at with a lot of this, and when in this new way of my trading, which is essentially my whole goal with this new system was to find sniper entries, like very, very aggressive sniper entries that I would have never taken before. Because really, I would only enter if, say, we broke and we held with this huge bull bar. We held this huge with this yellow line here with this huge bull bar support, and I would buy above it if we went above it. So I would wait for this huge bull bar to close, holding support, and I would buy above it. But now with this new system, it's opening here. It goes down. It forms this wick. It goes from red to green, and I'm in because that's enough. And I'm in here, and my stop is here. But as you'll see, the system really doesn't. When you're just trading like that, at least with how I was trying to pull it off, it's such a tight stop on such a volatile instrument, and it just wasn't enough information. There wasn't enough data for me to be working with, and I would go, oh, okay, it's going from red to green, and I buy, and immediately, boom, and it just hits me again, and reverses, and I get stopped out. And this was really a pain in the ass. This was not fun this past week, trying to trade like this. But I learned my lesson regardless. The next trade, I think, was a little better. These two wicks here come up with air, break and retest, and I turned it, like I was explaining. We go from, this bar opens, we go down, we go from red to green, and I enter long. And I think I got out here. And these were, I feel like, my best two trades of the week. And it started getting messy, as not only because I'm changing my strategy of how I'm entering, because I used to have such specific requirements for what it would take for me to enter and exit a trade. But now I don't really have any of that, So it was just me kind of being like, well, if I see this here at this point, I guess that could work, And when your entry requirements become a lot less black and white, a lot less clear, a bit more up to interpretation, it becomes much easier to take these, let's see what happens kind of trades. And that's what happened here, is I don't even know, we didn't even go from, I think we opened here, we went from red to green for a split second or something, and I bought, and these are the kinds of things, when you're taking losses and you can't even really explain why you took that losses, that's an unusually bad trade. You're really doing something wrong. Because and this line doesn't even make that much sense to me. And this was a theme of the week as well. I was drawing these lines, and then we would chop around these lines. How we form this chop trading range at this line. And it's kind of like, well, you have to stay out of here unless you form a very clear rejection. You just have to stay out because you're just in the trading range chop. Everyone is just getting built into, everyone is just becoming liquidity. And here as well, rejection, short. Again, kind of just, okay, we break up and then we break down. Okay, the breakout failed. Now we're going to break to the downside, just short here. And this was 3 trades in 15 minutes, just mindless, completely garbage, not even really thinking, throw them on, whatever sorts of trades. And this is something that I hadn't done in so long, but again, I feel like is a symptom of me trying to trade in a way that I've never really tried to before, and feeling like I can just do this stuff. So it's inexcusable. It's not something that I'm proud. Nothing, of course, to be proud of, but these are the kind of mistakes that I was already starting to think okay, I have to be much stricter with myself if I'm going to actually try and make this new approach work, so that was today. Moving forward, that was Monday. Moving on to Tuesday, it's big channel here in red, white taken from here and here, pivot to the top. Again, we get this bull bar, but I wouldn't have bought above it beforehand. But now we go from red, we touch here, and then we go green, and I buy. And I think I got stopped out on that same candle, or I got stopped out here. And it's just like old me would have never bought this. And this was the theme of the week. Old me would have never taken any of these trades. It's just kind of this huge breakout, huge up, huge down. It's very messy. It's all over the place. But it was just something that I was like, why am I taking this? This here is an A+ setup. Because here we break down, we reject it, and this is the OCBNR, you know, the wick, but to the short side. And we break down, get a few points, but then we come up and there's some air here, there's some space, and we get a proper structural retest. Rejection, nice wick, short here, stop there. Oh my gosh, beautiful trade, right? The next move was here, and these are taken from here and here, here, here. Normally, if I enter here, my stop would go here, so I would have never lost on this trade. But you know, my stop is so tight on such a volatile instrument, trying to catch these tiny moves. And another thing I've learned this week is, you know, when you have these lines and you start chopping all over this, you cannot enter unless you really have a proper wick holding it, like you do here. So that's important to know moving forward into next week. This one was taken from red. Touch, touch, come out, break, little bit of air, you know, structural retest here. There's air here, we come back, retest, we form a nice bull bar. And normally I would buy here, right, when we go above the bull bar. Right here, stop below here. So this was a decent trade. And then I just lose, like, just complete, again, same story as yesterday, right? Same shit. And it's kind of like, okay, like, I'm really doing something wrong. I don't know, like why am I, like, I feel like I'm past this, you know? These are, like, beginner things to just, like, you know, last 30 minutes of the day, you just take, like, 3 stupid trades, like, back to back to back, you know? And it's like, all right, I'm above this. I'm past this. But really, no one is past tilt or bad habits. I mean, they're always in you. But the best traders have trained themselves to think differently, to react differently, because they know their system so well, and it's certain and it's reliable what they're going to be, how they're going to be reacting. But when I have such a lack of clarity in terms of my own system right now and how I'm entering and experimenting with this, then I feel like that seeps into my rules and my management and my personality. Hence the loss here, which is just a BS trade on this line that doesn't make any sense. And then this teal one makes sense, but if I would have kept my stop here, I would have gotten stopped out here to the tick and would have gotten my profit target hit. And this one is complete BS. I mean, like this line here, but it's just like a shitty trade. It's like, you know, same thing. We go from red and then to green for a split second. Okay, I long. Super tight stop. No. You get stopped out immediately. And old me would have never entered here. This was just a stupid trade. And old me actually would have seen this yellow and the wick rejection here and shorted. And that would have been a great trade. But these are the things that I was like. And here's another example. The white, most tapered, widest, widest channel. Break down, break up, second break, wick rejection. You could short here with a stop here. Beautiful trade in my opinion. Yeah, just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm really not sure where I'm at with all of this. It feels very much all over the place. But I keep experimenting on. I keep trying to see what I'm working with. And today I do manage to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, yeah, to reduce my trades by like 3 or 4, because those other days I was like 1 out of 8 winning trades or 2 out of 7 winning trades. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It's not how I've ever been, you know, and especially coming from, you know, just a few months ago, I was just 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1, 0 out of 1, 1 out of 1, 1 out of 1 every day, because I was just keeping everything so low key. Everything was very muted. There wasn't a whole lot going on, and that's how trading should be. You know, that means you have an edge, and I was okay with that. But I guess I wanted more. I wanted to strategy hop. I wanted to over optimize. So, yeah, again, this line here, a loss on a trade that old me would have never taken. Again, a loss on a trade that old me would have never taken. There's no real liquidity here. It's just very awkward. It's very low volume, kind of choppy, strange to me. This is just irregular price action. And I think I got stopped out like on near the highest tick here because I was normally I moved my tick, a few points above, but here I was like, oh, it needs to be right there, which I think was just stupid. Here again, trade old me would have never taken these 3 trades. I would have never lost a month ago because I would have never taken them. They would have never been an issue. I think we broke out of this green, came down, didn't even form another bull bar to break above, which would have been my entry. We just kind of turned green and I entered and immediately stopped on the same candle. This is a bread and butter trade that I really like. Touch, take it to the top, breakout, a little bit of air here, structural retest, boom. And you'll see that my last 2 trades of the week my last trade of the week is exactly this setup as well. Here, dun, dun, da, da, da. And this was a repeat theme that I saw throughout the week. Was we have this channel, touch, fail to break out here, and on the second breakout it flies up, right? And we had me trying to reject here this channel, play it short to get to the bottom, and it failed. And it was just not really a good trade, but you'll see this pattern repeated 3 times throughout this week, right? So we have this channel here to the top, breakout fails, second breakout rallies hard rejection of some sort of channel, I don't know what, and then we fail to end the day. Big sell-off. Now let's look at Thursday, and you'll see that it's scarily similar. Channel here from the top, fails to break out. Second breakout comes, rallies hard, huge rejection, and it sells off at the end of the day. Same thing on Friday, but to a lesser extent. Touch, fails to break out, and it rallies, followed by a hard rejection. And I was able to capitalize on this on Friday, but it was kind of interesting to see how similar that pattern was throughout the week. So let's start with the Thursday review. This touch here, touch to the top, break out, and then we have this nice wick hold here. We buy above the bull bar, which is holding support, with this kind of cup and handle, little micro inverse head and shoulder pattern there. Beautiful trade. Protect at the structural high, which that was a 203. Whoa, yeah, it's like a 70-point trade, 65-point trade. Beautiful. Then here you have, this was one of the days, the first day, where I was like, all right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were such a huge mess. I don't know what I was doing. I was doing so good before, and I'm having like my worst few weeks ever. Like stop. Just like get a hold of yourself. Stop trying to trade like this, and just be normal, and trade your profitable system. And I'm like, okay, so I stopped. I gave up the experiment. This experiment failed, but I learned my lesson. I learned a lesson that was valuable, so in a way it was a success. But look, for me it was kind of like the only really good takeaway from it was that in that environment, in that trading environment, I was much more inclined to hold my trades longer. And I think that has its pros and cons, but because of that, the very few winners that I did have, I was able to, were generally speaking much larger than my losers. And I was also much less afraid to lose. So there were those takeaways from that. I was much less afraid to lose because I was losing so much, right? So there were those takeaways from the experiment. But ultimately, the cons outweighed the pros by far. So anyways, this one here is the white touch, and this is kind of where I get back to where I was saying that you need to wait for it to really hold on one side or the other. Like I explained earlier in the video, we come down here and we just kind of chop around, and I feel like we kind of get some sort of resistance here at this white. I short, but it's not enough. Not a terrible trade, not a great one, but it's only here that we really hold the white support, and here would be a good place to long. Why? Because hold, failed breakout, And on the second break, we get this huge rally, just like I've been explaining. And this rally hits resistance right at this orange channel. Touch, 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 come up with air, structural retest. This is air. This means that you have like a nice retest here. There's a real structure behind it. And this is your left shoulder liquidity. And this air can only be formed if you allow this to build it, rather than, oh, this is your retest. Okay, short. That's an OCBNR, one candle break and retest, right? So this would have been a beautiful trade short. And it was on it does require quite a large stop. How big is that? 45 points. Oh my gosh. But, what a move, right? We haven't seen a move to the short side like this in quite some time. It was almost a 250 point just straight sell off. And a place you could have entered was here, touch, touch, comes down, and then it retests, and you have this hard rejection of the channel here, right? Break down, one candle retest, breaks down, you short here, stop above here, and still a huge move. But this was the day where I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna stick with this. I just felt, what was weird about this day too was like these other days. Look, I take those other days that I showed you when I was trading the old system. I took 8, 9 trades, 7 trades, and it was all like I was foaming at the mouth to get a trade in, and just constantly on edge about when the next move was coming. And it's because I didn't really know what I was even looking for. And on this day, I just take one trade. And it was so much, it was just so, okay, well, I don't see anything here that I like, so I'm not going to trade. Which is literally how you should be trading. That's a maturity goal that, most people should strive for. That you definitely want to be a part of you, when you're on the trading floor, is to be like, well, I don't see anything here that I like. Because I know what I like and what I don't like from all this screen time and practice, I'm just not going to enter. And that's what kind of happened here today for the first time in a few weeks. As opposed to, okay, anything can be a trade setup for me, with this new system. I don't even know what I'm trying to do. So, to wrap up the week, Friday. What do we have here? Yeah, this was my teal touch here. So we held it here, and I was waiting for another touch of teal, so that it's kind of like a high 2, right? And this was it. The thing is, we had already broke teal here. It broke right here. I'm just gonna get rid of that. We broke teal right here, and you don't need to see that there's a lot of volume. You don't need to see that there's gonna be a lot of volume here. You kind of already know. Look how strongly we sell off into that. How strong this is. You don't want to be longing here just thinking, yeah, we shoot right back up, dude. No. Right, but the other thing too is this red here, touch, touch, touch. And we had already broken down, and now we're resisting it, which you can see here. But I still ended up taking this trade, even though we broke the teal, and it just felt like, I don't know, to me, it's not as bad, not nearly as bad as the other trades, but it was not something that's like, okay, this is a 10 out of 10 setup. But what's funny is I started watching the market here at 11:36, and I didn't take a trade until 14:30. So that I was sitting in front of the market for almost 3 hours before I took a trade, and that's hard to do, But I just know so well what I kind of like and what I kind of don't like, that nothing here was even remotely doable for me. And that's okay. That's totally okay. But this trade, I feel like I could have avoided had I, this red here, I knew that we broke down, so we were going to, we're retesting this red. This teal already broke. It's kind of a very aggressive anti-algo trade, which is what this is. It's not a retest trade. It's just a very aggressive anti-algo. And I had taken out anti-algos completely out of my system about 2 months ago, but I'm trying to find ways to bring it back. But this is not one of them. This is definitely not one of them. But look, we have this very similar pattern that we've been having the past few days right here. Touch, 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 and breakout here, failed breakout, right, as you can see right here. And on the second break, then we fly. And that's when I capitalized on this trade. And it wasn't only because, I mean, you saw the past 3 days. It was the exact same pattern. We have this touch, 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 breakout, first breakout fails, comes out, second breakout. But we also had this channel, this kind of flag here. Touch here at the bottom, touch here at the bottom, touch, touch. I mean, we were kind of forming this, and then here, this wasn't strong enough to touch the bottom. But we were kind of forming this little wedge here. This touch, 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 right? And then this, this, this. So this was a really, and with this failed breakout, which is, the second break was the one that had always worked, which was beautiful. And I was expecting kind of us to come here and retest, but I also knew that there was a good chance that a big sell-off was coming. And that's exactly what we got with this, 40-point candle. But that led to this retest of our white here. Touch, right? Comes out, comes, retests, and I had a beautiful trade, just on small size, kind of end of the week lotto here. Not lotto, but this was a good structural trade. But I did take it on a highly reduced size because my risk was like 30 points. Longed here once we came, wick retested, there's air all throughout here, support, and I longed. But that was kind of the move that I was like, all right, I'm just going to stick with this because I know this works. And I actually had to cut this trade early because there's certain parameters around how much you can make and lose in a day. So I was kind of exceeding the make, which is a good problem to have there. But yeah, honestly, that's my wrap up of the week. That's my general thoughts on the week. Is just like, all right, time to return to my old self, to how I was doing things before, because clearly it worked better for me. Whatever it is that I'm doing right now is not how I want to be managing this, and I feel like I need to spend the next few days, few weeks kind of getting back into shape, and it'll be all right. I think I'm glad that I tried this out, but I really think my main takeaway is that I want to stick with what works, and number two being that I do need to learn to manage my trades a bit better, just in general. Regardless of old system, new system, I want to learn how to get more points out of my trades. I think that could be something really great if I'm able to work on that a lot. How can I get more out of each move? From managing runners properly. And that's a struggle for everyone, but I think I'll get it in due time. So yeah, that concludes this week. Thank you for listening.